What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astro DFS, bringing you a brand new video. In today's video, I'm going over Week 10's Sunday morning showdown. We have two big showdowns today, and then the main slate. I will have a video for all three. Let's get into it. If you haven't been here before, what I basically do is go over the game on DraftKings and Fanduel, compare prices, talk about the player matchups, and then usually put together some type of line at the end, just based off of players that I like. So let's get into it. On DraftKings, you get Evans, Ken Walker, Geno Smith, Tom Brady over 10,000. So we get four players over 10,000, both quarterbacks, which I don't think we've seen much of lately, of having four. On FanDuel, I mean, the prices are pretty lower compared to most. You usually get a player over 17K. Ken Walker the most at 6. Geno Smith below him at 15.5. Then you get Brady. And then Evans. So Evans on DraftKings is number 1. On FanDuel, he's number 4. Both sites then pretty similar after that. Lockett, Metcalf, Fournette, Godwin. Lockett, Metcalf, Fournette, Godwin. DraftKings, you get Julio at 6,200. But on FanDuel, you get Julio Jones at 7,500. So you get a big discount on FanDuel if you like Julio Jones today. Go back to DraftKings. Then you get K. Dotton, Marquise Goodwin, who is questionable. I think he's the only true questionable player that we're looking at besides Cameron Brate. Those are the two questionables tonight. But Marquise Goodwin, Rashard White, Scotty Miller, Noah Fant, defenses, kickers. FanDuel, Rashard White, K. Dotton, both of those guys are up there in prices, then defenses, then kickers. Then you get Scotty Miller, Marquise Goodwin, so you get discounts on those guys on FanDuel versus DraftKings. Travis Homer, Brashard Perryman, Will Dissly, Cameron Brate, 6,500 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, 1,200. He's definitely a value piece to me today. He's probably the one that stands out the most. Other than that, you get DJ Dallas here at 6,000. On DraftKings, he's at 22, so a value play on both sites. And then the only other player that I have is truly like a valuable play is if Marquise Goodwin is out. D. Eskridge here at 200 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, 5,500. He would get targets or snaps if Marquise Goodwin is out. So going over the player matchup, both secondaries have played pretty good this season, stat-wise. You go by PFF grade-wise. Some decent graded corners in this game. The thing is you have Seattle, who's one of the most productive, efficient offenses, going against a Tampa Bay team that just can't seem to get it figured out. And on the contrary, this is a Tampa Bay team that needs to figure it out. And you look at Brady, man, and his numbers are crazy. Continue to talk about it. Over 40 passing attempts since week 3. He's thrown the ball over 40 times a game. And he's not inefficient either. I mean, you look at his passing yards. You look at his completions. He's just not getting the touchdowns. Like, it's crazy. 10 touchdowns and 1 pick. They just can't, one, run the ball efficiently to make their pass game better. But two, it just seems like they have so many mental errors, and it costs them. So as far as the Tampa Bay side, I'll start on the Tampa Bay side and kind of go back to the Seattle. I do like Tom Brady here. I think this is a really good matchup for him. I really hope that he could get his passing touchdowns for my fantasy team's sakes. Mike Evans has a rougher matchup, but I think going against some of these rookies might help him. As far as the best, Chris Godwin's got the best matchup. Going just number-based, Chris Godwin's got the best matchup for Tampa Bay. And his price, 7,200. I like that. Leonard Fournette, according to PFF, like, Tampa Bay's got a terrible run matchup, but they actually have the best passing advantage. So Brady, 10,000. Godwin, I do like Leonard Fournette. I think they get him included in this game. You look at his last 3 weeks, under 10 rushing attempts in all of those games, and he's still putting up decent numbers because he's getting targets, getting receptions, getting yardage there. I mean, he's getting more yards in the receiving game than he is the run game, but I think this is a game where he can potentially bounce back. If they get it going early, Leonard Fournette's going to be that piece. The difficult part becomes Cade Otton, Cameron Brate. No, but in my opinion, Cade Otton should be the guy. I mean, you look at some of his numbers this year, not Gronk numbers by any means, but he does finally get a touchdown last week. 6 targets, 68 yards against the Rams. So that's just something to look for. Buccaneers defense can easily be a play. We're waiting for them to finally lock it in. I mean, I don't think they're bad. It's just they're not playing to what Tampa Bay's been strongest in, which is the pass game, getting pressure on the quarterback. They haven't done it this year. They're missing obvious pieces. But Ryan Suckup, and he's a guy that I really like. I mean, you look the last 2 games against some close games. Baltimore, he gets 10 points. The Rams gets 12. And this is a game where it should be, based off of how Tampa and Seattle have played, there should be a closer game. So look for somebody like Ryan Suckup to be that piece. Now, as far as Julio on DraftKings, I think is too high for me to go for. I would feel safer with Cade Otton. Rashard White is obviously a play here too. Almost matching Fournette in carries, also getting targets, receptions. But it's one of those games where I think Leonard Fournette takes it. So I'm on basically Brady, Godwin, Fournette, Buccaneers defense, Ryan Suckup. Those are my plays. Those are my guys that I like. Cameron Brate is the value play to me at $1,200 for Tampa Bay. So let's go over to Seattle. The only reason I'm not switching over to Fanduel is just going off of the numbers really quick. So I don't want to keep going back and forth sites, just talking basically the same thing. So Ken Walker, 10-4, the most expensive Seattle player. Rightfully so. He's been putting up huge numbers. The only thing that worries me is you look at some of these games playing New Orleans, rushes very efficiently, 8 for 88 and a touchdown. You look at the Giants, 18 for 51, also gets a touchdown. Like, he is playing very well. Like, all of his touchdowns have come in this streak. Since week 5, he scored at least 1 touchdown a game. Now, he has his probably first toughest matchup against Tampa Bay here. But I mean, the volume he gets, it's pretty hard to not like Ken Walker. Especially when you go back and look at this. This is still when Rashard Penny's playing. So, I mean, there's nothing really negative to come out of Ken Walker. Week 8 against the Giants, I mean, is possibly the only thing that you could see being the issue. No targets, 18 for 51, only rushing 2.8 yards a game. Faces Arizona, the Chargers, and does well. Like, he puts up some good fantasy points. You look at the Giants in New Orleans, some of the better defenses, and he doesn't have as explosive games. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, Geno Smith here, it's not the greatest matchup, but we've seen Geno Smith do some very impressive things. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I mean, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's playing very well. 2 touchdowns, as you can see in the last 3 games. And still, it's a very hard sample size, but you look at a team like New Orleans, 16 for 25, 268, 3 touchdowns. Just keeps it very simple, in my opinion. Gets those rushing yards, too. Like, he's one of those guys that can get you those rushing yards in a game if he needs to. A team like Tampa Bay, who gets pressure if they don't contain, Geno Smith might get some of those rushing yards. But Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, I mean, both these guys are playable for me. I'm not really looking at Ken Walker as much. He's one of those guys to where I'm okay with getting burnt with. If Ken Walker has a Ken Walker game, I will take that. It's just the touchdowns that he's gotten eventually will have to end. And I don't mean like just it has to, because there's no way a player does this. It's just not feasible to continue to get 1 to 2 touchdowns a game, and especially in a rougher matchup like this. Like, don't get me wrong, he is clearly their red zone guy. But I like Metcalf and Lockett to potentially get some of those touchdowns today. Marquise Goodwin is the questionable player. That's why we like D. Eskridge. Tight end, it's very difficult for me to like a tight end, because you look at Noah Fant, you look at last week, and he probably has his best game in the season. 5 for 96. No, doesn't get your touchdown there. So, I mean, it's... For me, going over and looking at the tight ends, you also have Will Dissly here, who just gets in some weird plays. And, I mean, you look, 3 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks. Hasn't really had that as much. Yardage targets aren't there. He's just very efficient in his targets. So, definitely another piece. And then DJ Dallas, Travis Homer are 2 other plays. I mean... Travis Homer, 4.1, 6.2, paying $1,800. If you're playing quite a few lines, that's somebody you definitely want to have. Somebody that can get in, maybe get some receptions. If Ken Walker, for whatever reason, is out of the game, Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, like those guys. I mean, DJ Dallas doesn't have as great of numbers, but I still like DJ Dallas over Travis Homer if I had to pick one. For this game in particular, and then D. Eskridge here at 200. It's really that simple. The Seahawks defense been playing very, very well as well. I mean, you look, the last 4 games, 7 fantasy points is their lowest. Just takeaways that they get is what makes them so good. I mean, the sacks, you're looking at it here, 5, 5, 3, 6. So they've been playing very, very well. It's their passing yards. So this is probably going to be like a Chargers type scenario where we're seeing a team pass the ball a lot on them. But even you look, they still get you 7 fantasy points. So they're definitely in play today, especially with how bad Tampa Bay's offense has looked. Jason Myers is also in play. One of these guys to where he's definitely someone that they aren't afraid to use. Some teams would rather their offense be on the field and try to go for it and try to get that extra first down, try to get the more points. Seattle's just very smart, and if they need to kick a field goal, they find it that's the best scenario for them, they're going to kick a field goal. I mean, you look at it since week 3, his lowest fantasy points came last week against Arizona, and that's 8. So he's put up 8 or more fantasy points in the last 6 games. So that's something else that you want. So let's go and just try to make a line and see what we can do. Like I said, I like Tom Brady. I'm going to put him as captain, just see what comes out of it. Really like Chris Godwin. Definitely my play there. In this, let's say I want to take Ryan Suckup. Tampa Bay has just not looked good in the red zone. I want to get another value piece because I know in order for me to afford that, like Geno and that. So, let's go Lenny. I don't want to go Lenny. I changed my mind. Let's go Metcalf. 5,200. Rashard White, Marquise Goodwin, Noah Fant. Defense, kickers. For the sake of it, let's just put in Jason Myers. $1,000 left over. That's not bad for Showdown. Showdown, you don't always want to have money. It's mostly better to have money left over than to spend all your money. Fanduel. I'm going to do almost the same thing. I'm going to put Brady as captain. I definitely want to have Geno Smith. Go look at values. Someone like Julio is down there. The kickers wouldn't leave me as much. So let's put Julio. That gives us 11. Said I really like Chris Godwin here. 11.5. Just off of Leonard Fournette DK. So let's see if we can't take Julio out. There's not a lot down there. So like if we put Cameron Brate, you get Metcalf, but I don't really like Cameron Brate in that slot. But that gives me both quarterbacks, both top wide receivers, and then tight end. But I don't like Cameron Brate. But like I said, that's just an example, just going over, seeing if you like those guys, put them in your captain and flex, and see what you could do. So I hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys are looking for the main slate and or showdown, just hit that sub button. Those videos will drop later today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.